Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to episode 40 of Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. It's not going away. Formula One, we've got to discuss that. There's a bit of June buggy racing, as Tiff likes to call it. I call it Extreme E. Bit of testing as well with F2 and F3. No, F1 and F2 even. But it's all kind of kicking off. There's so many rumours. There's so much going on with Formula One. What happened? Mercedes have dropped their appeal. Doesn't look like sports fans have dropped their appeals and their interest in this matter. And I think the number one title for me, or the number one point for me is Lewis Hamilton retiring? Is there any truth in that rumour?
There's great stories been written now, you know, this fact that he was disillusioned with Formula One and they didn't turn up to the prize giving, which is causing more problems. I mean, I was ready to drop it, you know, but Twitter's still raging on. There's still photographs of Silverstone and photographs of Brazil. And I mean, they always say if you take one shot, it doesn't tell a story when things are moving at 200 miles an hour, 150 miles an hour. You know, I'm ready to say, you know, Max deserved to be the champion, fair enough. I'm biased. Funny this word bias gets thrown out. You know, if you prefer Lewis Hamilton to win because you happen to be a fan of his, then you're biased. No, we've always looked at it statistically anyway. I was happy to let it all go. But it keeps on bouncing back, doesn't it? Now these stories that, you know, Lewis is that. The word he used was disillusioned, wasn't it?
I can't say I
blame
him.
Toto saying, you know, but the funny thing is, because you know, I've been saying on this very podcast, you know, for several months that I believe that if he won the championship and got that record 8th title, despite the contract, he may walk away from Formula One just because it's a lot of effort to keep on, you know, challenging your teammate and pressure. And there's new cars, of course, coming up this year, so that could be a big difference. And George Russell's going to be very quick in the other car. So there's lots of, and also I think the fact that he could well do sort of a Niki Lauda or Prost and sort of quit now for a year, because if the new Mercedes is rubbish and someone comes up with a brawl, like we said last week, you know, if someone comes up with a little tweak with these new regulations, we could have Haas winning the world championship. Maybe not. No, man, that gone too far down. So maybe a year out to recharge his batteries, see how the new regulations develop, and then maybe. But I do think it's possible. And, you know, Lewis he wears his heart on his sleeve. He was so, you know, good, I think, you know, not saying anything. He hasn't spoken or quoted. There's no bitterness coming out. You know, I think he just says he's disillusioned. I think, you know, I'm happy now to say Max is a worthy world champion because, you know, he won more races and he is an incredibly quick driver. But the championship will still be soured. There's no doubt about it. You know, there's still a lot of discomfort with the way it was. We were robbed of a proper Grand Prix, and we were given a one-lap sprint race, you know, with one guy with his hand tied behind back. I know Max, and again, I keep on saying to the Max fans, move on, that if you go back to the history of Formula One, there are so many champions that wouldn't have been champion, bar, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, so many other things happened through the season. Yes, you can go back to Silverstone. Yes, you can go back to Brazil. But the thing to me about Abu Dhabi was that we had this fantastic, rare one-off head-to-head we were robbed of. Yes, if you go out through the season, either of them could have won, or Lewis could have been disqualified 10 more times and Max disqualified 10 more times.
But it didn't. It did go down to the...
So we were just given this farcical one-lap race, which I think will forever leave it a bitter taste.
And it's easy to say move on, and Lewis has conducted himself so admirably throughout this whole thing. And he's won a lot of support from Max fans as well, because it's quite a bitter rivalry with the fans. You're either Max or you're Lewis. There's no sort of in between. And I think we see it from both sides of the fence.
But I mean, Twitter's so awful. We all know there are some very strange people out on Twitter. And, you know, when Lewis was knighted, of course, we congratulating on being knighted, Sir Lewis. And then there are people saying he's a disgrace to Black Lives Matter, kneeling in front of a white supremacist with a sword on his shoulder. You know,
it's silly.
It's a frightening world out there.
It is a frightening world. Sadly, whatever
people interpret things.
Yeah, and whatever opinion you have, somebody would be offended with it, or somebody would be put out by it, which is it's a horrid world, really, that we live in these days. But anyway, do you know what? Moving on. It's easy to say moving on because. And I think Lewis has done an incredible job of trying to distance himself a little bit, and he was so humble when he did lose. But I still think about that race in May at Mallory Park, where I was kind of in the lead.
Yeah, good point.
I still think about that to this day.
You would have been champion. You would have been champion.
So you have to.
And of course, now Lewis is in more trouble because we've got this new FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem, and he gets the job the day before Lewis doesn't turn up at the prize giving, which is in the rule book. And I think we have to almost discuss rule books in general, where we're going with rule books, because it's the rule book that's often causing all the controversy. Because the rules say if you come in the top three, you have to turn to the prize giving. So poor old Mohammed bin Salman, he's been quoted as saying, they have to follow the rules. We have to be. We can be giving no forgiveness. That's just really his quote. So he can't be forgiven.
He's in trouble. He's a motorsport. You know what he should have done? Lewis, because I know obviously Lewis must listen to this, but Lewis, what you should have done, you should have said, I've got COVID-like symptoms.
Yeah, can't come.
That's what you should have said. And it gets you out of anything these days. Holidays, flights, anything.
But bin Sulayem he's very highly respected in the motorsport world. He was a Middle East rally champion for many years. It's just a bit of a shame for him that he's got the new job smack back in the middle of this huge controversy. I mean, Toto Wolff's happy. They're going to look into everything and look at how they run. And it's trying to write rules in motorsport that is almost tripping them up. In these battles between these heroes, it's so hard to find a rule for these overtaking manoeuvres. So I always went back to, imagine there's a wall around the edge of the track everywhere. So if you've hit a wall, imaginary though it may be, then, you've damaged the car. But certainly these stupid S-bends that cause almost all the controversy, apart from Brazil, is when you do the overtake, then you run off track on the way out, which Max did in Abu Dhabi. I don't know how you're right. These five, because Lewis got 10 seconds at Silverstone. They were upset. Why do you get 10 seconds? Why do you get 5 seconds?
No consistency. The FIA
also
really
fines,
did a poor job.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis will get fined for not going to the meeting, get fined £20,000 or something. Well, that's £2,000. It's about a £20 entrance fee to the cinema for him. So he won't be. And they get fined, don't they, for pit lane speeding? Well, they don't give a toss about fines. Then these 5-second, 10-second penalties that I think spoil the sport. I think that, I don't know. I don't actually know if I was in charge, how would you regulate? How do you punish people? How do you decide who was wrong? I think a lot of people call out for, 3 former Grand Prix drivers to be the permanent stewards. So you get that continuity and the drivers chat with them after at every Grand Prix, but you won't get 3 Grand Prix drivers wanting, to go to, is it 21 or 22 Grand Prix next year? That's the problem. You won't get retired racing drivers, however much you might want to pay them to do that job.
Unless they're doing it for Sky Sports and getting paid a fortune. That's the difference. Then they'll happily jump on the first class flight.
Massey's still there, there's no sudden resignation by Mr. Massey and no, I can't believe that. I would have thought that Mercedes have made it very obvious in there, okay, we'll withdraw the appeal as long as, these regulations are looked at. And surely somewhere along the line, as long as Mr. Massey doesn't reappear as the other director of the race, I think nobody trusts him anymore. This is the problem.
No one
trust is so much. Trust is such an important thing in these matters.
And I think that's the key point. We're sports fans of lots of different sports, not just motorsport. And as long as there's trust and there's consistency, and there's been very little consistency with the FIA all season, and I think that's the thing. It's the hardest job in the world, being a referee of a football. Yeah, incredibly difficult. But as long as
nobody likes a football referee, let's face it.
So as long as there's consistency, you don't mind. But there's been zero consistency all the way through. Let me ask you a question. And you Red Bull fans, you answer this honestly below. Would Red Bull have been as magnanimous, thank you, beat as Mercedes? Would they have dropped it, or would they have taken it to the Court of Appeal? That's a question for you as well, Tiff.
Yeah, I think they would. I think they would have taken it further. I think they're much more. I think they still feel Silverstone. I think Red Bull are still raging about Silverstone. I think so. I think they would have gone further, and it would have gone on and on.
So we've got to discuss Extreme Me. I wanted to discuss one more thing about Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis, he won. He won at the weekend. Wow. So he had some compensation because he won the June buggy race down in Dorset, didn't he?
Extreme Me, he did.
His team.
Rosberg beat him to the title. So there's a bit of a theme going on there. So if
Yeah,
you
'cause
haven't
he's a
seen
team.
it, Extreme E was in the UK. It was in the Baltic Coast, which is the Jurassic Coast, in the south of the UK. Beautiful part of the world. And I thought it was okay. I only watched it on catch up. I thought it was okay. There was a little bit of racing, but the problem is with all these sort of sports, once you're in front, it's terribly difficult to there's not really much.
Well, half the track is a single lane, so they have to just follow, and then occasionally they have these, alternative routes, and the commentators got to say, could they take the alternative route? Everybody knows the alternative route is slower because all the competitors have tried it. And I mean, bless them, I don't. I mean, because the other thing, Extreme E have already said they're not expecting motorsport fans to follow it, that they're looking for a new audience. They've almost announced that because they understand that historic fans like us won't fall for it. And you got the commentaries, the worst part about it for me. Jenny Gow and Andrew Coley. I don't know, because I know you can get told how to commentate by your producers and directors. They might be asked to do this wall to wall to wall. It's like being in a boxing ring with two competitors, because one's punching you. As soon as they stop punching you, the other one comes in, punching you. And they never stop talking for the whole everything. The seatbelt's being changed. The seatbelt's being buckled in. The seat back.
Yeah, but isn't that what commentators should be doing?
No,
you should be describing the moment.
No, because when I was with Murray Walker, I did about 5 or 6 years of wonderful live commentary on Formula 2 and Formula 3. Oh, I know. The nicest man in the world, Murray was, ever. And, I was the expert analyst. It wasn't two commentators. There was very much... Well, it still is pretty much in Formula One that you have the commentator, the expert analyst. But several times my producer in the ear would say, stop talking, let the pictures tell the story. And I think this is something that's lost on modern commentary teams. I think they're told they've got to hype it up all the time. They've got to say this is exciting. If you say it's exciting enough times, they believe that the audience will think it's exciting.
Okay,
this is what they do at the moment. They just keep on saying how amazing it all is when we can see. The shots from it, they come out those jumps and it's all about the run to first. It's just rallycross, really. It's just a modern version of rallycross in a more outward bound manner.
It is quite like rallycross, but he's talking about hyping it up. There's 3 phrases I've written down on my notes here: hyperdrive. Switch zone, to you and I, that's a pit stop, and traction challenge. It's cringe. It's really cringe. They've done a brilliant job. They've done what an amazing job taking these. You've got Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, Katie Munnings. All these top people involved, and you've got some amazing places, but. It's just it's so over the top for me. I wonder if the Americans like it. Any Americans on here?
Too much hype. Yeah. Have you ever seen Extreme E in America? But we have to congratulate. So it was Rosberg's team that won the title, equal on points with Hamilton's team that won the last round. But Hamilton had Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez, the Spanish Dakar specialists. There's their female member of the team. They won the round down in Devon, wherever they were. But it was Johan Kristoffersen, who was a multiple world rallycross champion. Again, that rallycross experience. And Molly Taylor, the very talented Australian rally champion, who won the title for Rosberg's team. So congratulations to them all. We wait, because of course McLaren are joining for next year. It's one of these things that, so many green agendas that everyone wants to be in on. They want to be, it's all, I'm there, Hamilton's there, Button's there, Rosberg's there. What odds do you think we can get on Kimi Räikkönen joining them?
I don't get I've said this before on this podcast. I don't really get the Kimi thing, the Iceman. It's just I want a bit of emotion with the people.
No, you've got to have a bit of contrast.
You said, Tiff, about the so you're quite right. There's alternative routes you can choose, but nobody does because they're slower. Although the Munnings price right at the end, I don't know whether you saw it in one of the first semi-finals. They Katie Price took not Katie Price, Katie Budding, sorry. Katie Price's Jordan took the alternative route, and that was a really exciting almost. And now
close
finish, but then there were some close finishes.
There was that one moment. Who was that? She had a huge sideways moment, flat out when it kicked sideways, went up on 2 wheels. Then she came back in and sort of barged Katie into the next right-hand corner. That was a bit of excitement. And then Katie tried to get back just in the braking zone for the switch zone. But the commentator was banging on when one of the semi-finals where I think Loeb took the lead. Someone took the lead in the pit stop area. That's amazing strategy. It was because There was a horseshoe at the end, and half the cars were parked down before the horseshoe, and I think it was Loeb, wasn't it? Was parked after the horseshoe.
Lewis's team.
Was it Lewis's? Well, it was.
Yeah.
So Loeb came in hard, having raced for 2 laps, and got round the hairpin very efficiently, then parked the driver change. The poor girl that took over what had been the leading car, the first thing she had to do, and never having driven the track that day, was to get round this tricky hairpin. So she lost 1 second doing it. So the Loeb car came out in
strategy,
front.
Tiff.
Strategy, amazing.
Even though they've all got the identical time in the pits.
Yeah, they have 45 seconds.
I tell you what, they need to get some of those cars need to get some decent wipers on them. Do you see that? Because it was muddy.
Yeah, I was surprised. They didn't seem to have water jets. No. I mean, again, the Rallycross boys got the most amazing water-fed wiper blades, which a lot of modern road cars have. The Jaguar I've got now's got those, surprisingly.
It wasn't all of them. Cupra were pretty good by looking at it. I would like to do. We're filming a new TV show next year, so we're more of that to come. But I would like to get that. Wouldn't that be good? Who are you going to pick?
They won't let us in one now. They won't let me drive one. You'll have to do the drive, and I'll be banned.
So you can pick. Who do you want to pair up with? Nico or Jensen? Who would you pair up? I'll pair up with the other.
We're going to race, though. We're going to race.
Yeah, we'll have a race.
Tests.
We'll let them do all that. We'll have the final lap. We'll let them do all the hard work, and then we'll have the final lap. And
they look a lot of fun to drive, but when you see the arms twirling on board by the drivers, I mean, again, it's like Formula E itself. There's a lot of skills needed. I'm not, denouncing the skill involved. It's just the actual skill. Although entertainment.
Poor lad Woolridge, who's an amazing driver, he went the wrong way.
No, he had a half spin. That was right.
Oh, was it?
Oh, he had a half
spin.
Went the wrong
way. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
it looked like he'd gone the wrong way, but no. So Extreme, it's fun. It's a TV show. No spectators, of course, because you're in the middle of nowhere. And long may it continue for the good of those.
In the middle of nowhere, and there's this little fluey cold thing going around called COVID, so which doesn't help spectators. Although the UK. It's the new Omnicom is causing havoc over here, but still, you turn the TV on and there's darts and football.
Crammed in crowds.
Incredible, really.
Photos of Boris's parties, crowds. Just want to move on. There's so many more important things of whether a few Conservatives had a party or not. I know it's the trust of the nation.
It is the trust.
It's all. This is about motorsport. This is like moving on. Yeah. Formula One, because Formula One didn't finish with the Max crossing the finish line, because there was testing at Abu Dhabi the week after, the young driver testing, as they say, which is great to see so many names getting out in a Formula One car.
Okay, let me just interrupt there, because if Lewis does retire,
yes,
which one of these young drivers, if it was a young driver, maybe Bottas would come back in, who would be the top tip to take his place?
Well, the obvious one is Nick de Vries, this Dutch kid. And he was a sensation in junior form, and he just didn't there wasn't a window of opportunity when he was winning in Formula 2 and that sort of thing. So he didn't get the Formula 1 break. He won the Formula E. Everybody thinks he's a really talented driver. He was quickest in the young drivers test in the Mercedes. But then people are saying, well, you couldn't put him with Russell and you had 2 rookies. And I don't know why people get obsessed. I know. Russell jumped into the car at Bahrain a year ago and was on the pace. So then they talk about stealing Ocon. Ocon used to be a Mercedes protege, young driver, but that would take a lot of money to buy him out of Alpine. And then they talk about Bottas. That seemed almost the favourite would be Bottas.
Who did I say 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago? Oscar Pistari.
Bring him back. Well, then the other, but if
so what about 2 rookies? So
I know, I agree. So I'm just saying what other people are thinking. Stoffel Van Dorm is another previous Mercedes boy. He could be in. Hulkenberg, the Hulk, bring the Hulk back, experienced driver.
Get all these experienced ones out. Get the young guns in. Give the young ones a chance. Any female drivers worthy of that spot, Tiff?
Sadly, not yet. Not yet.
They will come.
We wait. 1 year. 1 year there will be. I still want to know how many young girls are karting. Hopefully there are more girls karting next year than ever before, and we'll find some fantastic talent.
Well, W Series has definitely helped that to encourage girls into the motorsport, which is a really good thing. There was a bit of F2 testing as well, Tiff.
Well, the Formula One test, because they all the existing drivers had to drive with the new 18-inch tyres on them. Pirelli were doing their tyre. They ran what they call mules. They're all slower than the young drivers in the 2021 cars, because de Vries was quickest. The Kiwi Liam Lawson, real talent for the future, in the AlphaTauri. He's a Red Bull, Third, Oscar Piastri, we've already talked about, was third quickest in the Alpine. Fourth quickest was Pato Award. I mean, I love him. He's a really feisty, Mexican doing IndyCar, and he's talked about a 2-year window. But I think, funny enough, his nationality might work against him. Because I know, there's so much talk about getting an American in, and of course, Pato, although racing in the American series, is Mexican. So, but yeah, Pato Award really talented for McLaren. Yuri Vips, the Estonian, was out in the Red Bull car. He's been a Red Bull boy for a while, but he's about to start his 3rd year in F2. And I think once you get that far, you're not likely to get the leap into a Formula One seat. Zhao, who is in Formula One next year, was 6th quickest in the, what was he in? In the Alfa Romeo, of course, where he's going to be next year.
Yep.
Interesting. I love these people that get a reward. It's not really a reward. It's also to help his job, because the Brit Nick Yaloli, who was he was a real single-seater star. He's now about 30 years old, I think, and he's been in GT racing professionally. But he's Aston Martin's official simulator driver back at the factory. So in order to give him experience so he can, relate his simulating to his real driving, he was their test driver. He was 7th quickest.
Amazing. That's just amazing. Because simulators, for me, they're such a massive thing. We should even cover a little bit of sim racing on this show sometime. But they feel so different, really different.
But as Pato Award said, in reality, his neck was about to fly out the car. He said his head was about to fly out of the car halfway through the day because his neck muscles had gone.
He has got
Ferrari went very slowly. They put out Robert Schwartzman, the Russian, who was 2nd in F2, who's a Tabahik, and he's been there for about 3 years, and I can't see him making the breakthrough. And Antonio Fiocco, who was Italian, who was in Formula 3, and he's still a sort of Ferrari protege. And Williams put out this young American. Here's the American story coming slowly. Logan Sargent, who's been doing F3. I think he's got to F2. He was out in the Williams. So no Hanses turned up. Well, for Haas's turn, there wasn't a Haas for a junior drive, but on day 2, Haas were the only people that ran a 2021 car, and Robert Schwartzman topped the time list because all the other guys were in the mules.
Wow, Haas on top. Maybe your prediction is going to be right for next year. They're going to be the new Brawns. They're going to come and storm the championship. Can you imagine?
A Formula 2 test. They had 2 days as well. And the guys, every year Formula 2, I love the sight of Formula 2 because there's always these 3-year-old boys that might win the champ, like Zhao did. Because we got the Indian Daruvlas going for his 3rd year, the Brazilian Drugovic 3rd year, Yuri Vips going to his 3rd year. And they're all drivers I don't really see launch themselves into F1. But a couple starting their 2nd year, Théo Pourchaire, very highly rated French kid, and Liam Lawson, we mentioned, the Kiwi, who's a Red Bull protege. They could well be names that will be in Formula 1. But great stories of the new boys coming up, because we got Jack Doohan. It was quickest in the final session, this son of Mick Doohan, the Formula 500cc. And he's really looking the real deal, obviously. So he's starting Formula 2 for the first time. The other rookies that I like the idea of are Logan Sargent, the American kid, but also the Norwegian Dennis Hauger that won Formula 3 in dominant style this year. So you've got this wonderful mix in Formula 2 every time. You've got the veterans that are always picking up the points. They're always in the top 3 or 4. And then you've got the new boys. And it's always great when the new boys come in and blow away the existing ones, a bit like Piastri this year. It was so good that Piastri came in and blew them all away.
If a vet hasn't done it, for whatever reason, get them out, get the new boys in. There's so few drives. I like to see the young rookies come in and get.
When you say young, I mean, some of the 3rd year boys, they're about, they're 21. Yuri Vips is 21. so the Red Bull kid is only 21. So although it's his 3rd year of Formula 2, it's, there's some. Jaruvla is 23. I mean, he's a bit ancient at 23. It's so amazing. I made my Grand Prix debut when I was 26, And nowadays, no chance at all. It's obsession with youth. Because, of course, they start at 8 in karting. So they've got a lot of experience behind them by the time they're 18.
Well, you've given me a lovely tenuous link there to something not sports related, but there's a sports link here. Sports personality at BBC, Emma Raducanu, a very worthy winner. So she won the US Open, and out of nowhere, really. So British tennis player, for those of you who don't know. But my point here, or my question here, is back to Lewis Hamilton. He wasn't even on the nominees. Should he have been there? There's some people there that you think, who's that? And you've got to read a little bit about them. And I know about sport, or I like to think I do. But so should Lewis have been on the On the
That's normal. I don't know how they choose it. In the old days, it was you wrote in. It was a viewers' voting system that got the finalists in the first place. But now they seem to have a little selection committee.
Well, it's a very worthy winner anyway with Emma.
Lewis, maybe they thought Lewis was too hot to handle. He couldn't take another defeat. Lewis beaten by Emma Raducanu. You know, maybe they thought, you know, he wasn't up for it.
And it's pretty much a clean, it's completely unrelated. It was pretty much a clean sweep for the ladies, other than the English football team and Gareth Southgate. Everything else, every other award was won by a lady. So well done to the ladies.
But I thought the team should have gone to the golfers because they beat the Americans. I think the team should have gone for the Europeans, not our footballers that lost the final. Lost
very badly to Italy.
Whereas the women's golfers, Solheim Cup, was amazing.
Yeah,
Won
exactly.
Won. Chicken dinner.
So next week there's something going on, a holiday on the Saturday. Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hope everybody has a fantastic Christmas with their loved ones. If you celebrate Christmas.
Should we come in? We'll say a quick hello a week's time. We just, in case things are developed, we might be back with another podcast.
We'll be back on Monday because there'll be something to talk about.
Plenty of testing. Of course, when is that? I don't know when Monte Carlo Rally is. Usually first week of January. Let's look that up. So we could be previewing the World Rally Championship.
I don't think there's going to be much between now and next Monday, but we will do a podcast. So if you've got anything you want to ask Tiff, put it in the comments below, please, and we'll ask Tiff.
Nothing to do with Formula One from last year. No questions.
No, anything. Don't listen to him. Anything you want to know or ask Tiff, put them in the comments below, and we look forward to welcoming you back after Christmas. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Happy Christmas, everyone. I like your decorations, by the way, Paul. Very, very cheerful.
Quality streets as well. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.